dear friends, here we are with another study of the book Green Light by the Spirit under Luiz through the mediumship of Francisco Cândido Xavier. So it was a blessing and an honor to be with you today. And today we're going to be talking about chapter 40 that is all about correspondence. A lot of the things he's going to show and discuss are about writing. But because we know these teachings are timeless, so we always want to apply the teachings to our daily lives. When we write comments, when we write books, when we write posts for our social media, when we use the written word, there are very specific ways that Andrea Luiz brings to us as the best way to be faced with that issue and how we are communicating and connecting with one another as well. So we want to be very responsible with anything we write, not to be outdone by anything we think, the things we feel, the things we plan as well. But then a lot of what we feel and think can come across when we write. So he's going to be talking about correspondence. So let me check, make sure I am on live. Make sure banner is on. Everything seems to be working. So welcome if you're here, live or on demand. All right. So chapter 40, correspondence. Andrea Luiz says, cultivate brevity and precision in your writings without being cold or being void of being harsh to others. So he's saying when we write, we cultivate being short, being concise, and precise with the words. Another way we write these days is through text messages, through apps, such as WhatsApp and others, and messaging one another. How much miscommunication can happen when the mode of communication is so concise that it's hard to interpret what's going on. He says, so cultivate brevity and precision. So you want to say what you need to say, choose the correct words, and be short. There's no need for us to go on and on and on about the communication. A lot of communication happens non-verbally, right? So when we are meeting, you can read the way I behave. You can look if the person looking at you or they're paying attention, where the things they're giving out to you in body language, emotional communication. When we write, if you're reading this book by Andrea Luiz and Manuels and others, you see they're very precise, they're short. This is a page. This is a page and one paragraph. Most of them have a paragraph in the end here. So they say everything they have to say in a very concise manner, and that's what we need to aspire towards. Because when you're writing, let's say you get a letter from someone or an email from someone, you don't have the cues we were talking about. So it's important that we carefully choose the words we want to say. He continues, a letter is a spiritual portrait of the one who writes it. So when we put things in writing, that's the spiritual picture of the one who is writing. In the book Calmness, Emmanuel has the same verbiage, but it's about the voice. It says your voice, your spiritual portrait. So what we say, how we say it, what we write, how we write it, the manner in which we write. And he gives us one more way of doing this. It says, care to write clearly and legibly. he says, have well traced cursive. If I were to translate letter by letter, he says, care to have a well traced cursive writing, clear and legible, so that we don't transform our friends into a decoder of hieroglyphs. So we write with care. We write the words so others can read, so they don't have to decipher what we need to do. Everything we have in this world is a concession from God, including the paper, the computer, and the microphone I'm using. So when we care for things, it shows. It's that devotion. I have something, I care for it, then it lasts longer, it fulfills its functional goal in my life. And it shows when someone writes something with care in a beautiful birthday card, it shows, versus if someone scribbles something we can't read. And before medical records were the very easy way to see this is before medical records were electronic and your prescription now is sent to the pharmacy from the physician's office. You would get a piece of paper with scribbles. And God bless the pharmacist who had to read the scribbles. So that you were there, you gave them the piece of paper, and you prayed that God inspired them to read the right thing so you could get home with the right medication. But it's the same thing here. Imagine getting a card from someone that you can't read. Very well intentioned, but then you're trying to decipher what happened. He says, do not write letters in moments of crisis or excitement. As much as possible, our news, the things we pass along, our correspondence, must be the messengers of peace, optimism, hope, and joy. How many times have we write things and then we are passing along resentment, complaints, anger, dissatisfaction? He says, as much as possible, our news must be messengers of peace, optimism, hope, and joy. So that's the goal for this week. As the weekend comes and we send our text messages, we leave messages to others, we write letters, cards, we post, we comment. Must may our written word be bearers of good news, peace, optimism. Write edifying. So when you write something, we're building something. It says, a letter written by your hand or by you is if you're talking to someone. There's a dialogue when we're writing something or feelings. We're passing along an information. We're writing an article. We're writing a blog post. You're talking to that person. So let us be the messengers of peace, optimism, hope, and joy. That brings to us a very important point of not spreading things that are written that are of a negative nature. So when we see something, we interact with a news or we interact with a post. First of all, is it true? Is it helpful? Is it going to hurt someone? There's some things we can ask about that. But also, if we are writing or consuming things that were written, like this book, but they bring images of destruction, of sadness, of material of a lower nature material. So let's say we're writing a script, and the script for the movie, or for the show, or the book has a lot of negative content, violent content, pornographic content, content of discord. Then now we are having that conversation with others and putting those mental images in their brain. Because when you read, you form an image in your mind. So there's a lot of responsibility, not only how we use our words, but also when we put it in writing, because it becomes something for the future generations to consume. And we want to find ourselves in the spiritual realm, knowing that when we wrote, we are building towards elevation. We're building higher towards being a better spirit in this life and in other lives. It says any subject can be approached with elevation and benevolence. So when we consume things that are not elevated, we can be benevolent, we can be kind, and we can stop the current there. We don't need to spread that content, because maybe we are strong enough, or we think we are strong enough to not be affected. We are all affected by the things we consume, either by food, drinks, or media consumption, movies, books, audiobooks, podcasts. We are still in a level of elevation in our spiritual evolution that brings us, we are affected by that. Then we have to say, if I pass this along, someone weaker might be more affected. Now they're suffering with that, or they're creating mental images that are destructive in their life. So the power of co-creation also lies in the good discernment of stopping those consumptions, and of course not encouraging others to consume that. Another one that I liked a lot this morning, he says, if it's not possible to write good things about someone or give good references, it's more valuable to be silent. It's a very old school thought, right? When our grandmothers would say, if you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything. He's saying, if I'm going to write something, but I can't bring anything good, because remember, our words need to be messengers of peace, optimism, hope, and joy, then it's better to be silent. In the book Jesus in the Home, Jesus shows to us how being silent in silence can be act of charity, because then we're not throwing gas into the fire. We're allowing people to express themselves. We're thinking before we say anything. We're not pushing the buttons that keep us fighting and engaging in a negative way with one another. So with the growth of ourselves as these immortal spirits, each and every one of us in our own evolutionary scale and ladder comes discernment. We get all of these teachings, brings more responsibility to actually do it in our daily lives. It's a constant practice, and that's why we bring one chapter a week, so we can try and apply the teachings we receive from Luiz. From today, this is going to air first on a Thursday. If you're watching this on demand, whatever day you do this, thanks for being with us. Then if we're focusing from this Thursday to the next Thursday, then we are going to be thinking about, every time I write something, am I being constructive? Am I being precise? Am I being short? Am I being a correspondence of hope, optimism, joy, and peace? If not, it's okay to be silent, he's saying. Now, last but not least, it goes back to the comment I made about the books people write, movies, shows, programs, podcasts, because whatever you put out in the universe has an effect. Someone can be affected by what we do. He says we're responsible for the images we create in people's minds, not only by our spoken words, but also by our writing. So when we write something, when we say something, we create in that person's mind, hopefully positive images of hope and optimism, peace, so that we can live more calmly, more serenely as we transition from a world of trials and expiations to a world of regeneration. So we can do our part in building the kingdom of God by triaging our words, being short, being concise, being kind, being optimistic. And if you want an explanation, those examples on how to do this, the book Jesus in the Home shows exactly Jesus' words, body language. The book Good News by Verde as well shows how Jesus said, and the Gospels describe the words of Jesus and how he acted and what he said. He never wrote anything, but others wrote what he did and what he said. And of course, the good spirits inspired them to do so, as we saw in the book Paul and Stephen by Emmanuel. Dear friends, I hope between now and next week your correspondence with others, your interaction with others is very pleasant and enjoyable. May you stay well, may you stay safe. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, spread the good news of Christ today and always. And between now and next week, may you stay well. I'll see you soon.